Now joined by my friend Cinematic Joshua. Hey Joshua, welcome back to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Very pleased to have you. We're doing best original screenplay. So let's just
Yes.
announce the well, first of all, do we remember who won best original screenplay last year? For the life of me, I couldn't tell
Oh, I
you.
don't know that. I didn't research that part of it.
You didn't research that part of it. Hold on.
I'm trying to live in 2024 right
You
now.
got to live in the
In
now.
2025. In
Um,
2025.
I'm sure Oppenheimer won Best Adapted Screenplay, but let's see. And it
Original,
was
yeah.
Anatomy of a Fall. Oh, that was it. We all liked that. Was a good movie.
Yeah, it was okay.
It was okay. Anyway, all right. So the nominees, we have Anora, we have The Brutalist, A Real Pain, September 5th, and The Substance. And Joshua, what I want to do is just talk about each of the movies individually, what we think, and try to
Sure.
focus on the screenplay rather than
Yeah.
the whole movie. But we'll just end up talking about the movie, and that's fine. Let's start with Anora. This was written and directed by Sean Baker. Sean Baker, people might remember his movie The Florida Project and Red Rocket. So, what do you think of Anora?
Yeah, I liked it, but I didn't love it. There's a lot of love for this movie, and I'm not sure where all that's coming from, honestly. There's some good performances there, of course. Mikey Madison also got nominated. I think the script is good. It's a dramedy. It's got a lot of comedy in there. But I think the pacing is really the issue I have with this movie, and so pacing also is involved with the writing. This got some funny jokes, but not spoiling the premise too much, but it's like a road trip movie, and it just kind of goes on forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt every time we had to go to a new stop to try to find this person, it was kind of agonizing. Like, it was kind of funny, but it wasn't that funny enough to kind of go along. It felt like a slog, a lot of it, to me.
Well, it's
I
certainly
thought, yeah.
certainly wants you to live in this and live with Anora, the character,
Mhm.
Mikey Madison's character, is like building awareness of her situation and how wrong she was in her understanding of everything. I liked this movie a lot more than you did.
Okay.
I think that what I love about it is how much it feels like a Coen Brothers movie. It feels like
Sure.
Fargo, where everybody is bad at their job, where we have this idea of like criminals, like, oh, this Russian oligarch, he's gonna hire the best of the best to be his enforcers, and they're just bad at their jobs like everybody in the world is bad at their jobs.
Okay. I like that.
And so I like that, but I also maybe feel like it's aping the Coen brothers a little too much. But
Mhm.
I think that the performance is really, really elevated. Mikey Madison is great. The Russian actors are great. I should know their names, including the one who was nominated for an Oscar. The Armenian guy, Toros, was great. And this movie, I think, is just hilarious. I was just
You
laughing
think so?
throughout.
Okay. Really? Yeah, that's a lot of people saying that. And I laughed a few times here and there, but like I said, it was just like, if they got the pacing, cut it down some, I think it would have been helpful. And especially in that the second and third act. And also, we don't get to learn a lot about her. She's very insular kind of a character, even though she's kind of boisterous and a rebel and a fighter. But her motivations and things like that, it's a little unclear, like how she goes along with this whole thing in the beginning. I'm not trying to spoil things, but the trailer kind of shows what it is about to an extent, but then you get into the movie and it's a little different. And it's just a lot more of that road trip stuff. And I just thought it went way too long, really. That was my issue with it. I still think it's pretty good. I wouldn't nominate for a screenplay. I don't think I'd nominate any of these movies for the screenplay for even Oscar type movies. And we'll go over the list later. What I for Oscars type list.
The Brutalist is next. This was written and directed by Brady Corbet. Brady
Yes.
Corbet is a person I've always been aware of. He's an actor, but I don't. The previous two movies he's directed are The Childhood of a Leader and Vox Lux. But
Mhm.
this movie, it's one of the front runners for basically all the big awards. It stars
Yeah.
Adrian Brody as a Holocaust survivor. I just saw it a few days ago, and I love it. I'm basically going to vote for it for all the awards, but I think you feel differently about it.
I knew you'd love it. You're the type. It's
I'm that
I'm not
type, yes, who
I'm
likes.
not an art house guy. That's one of my least favorite genres. I found this incredibly pretentious. So I haven't seen Vox Lux, but I do want to go back to Brady Corbett. He's a younger guy, but I applaud that. I think that's cool. Also, is the previous guy, Sean Baker. I think Brady's probably something like 30 or something like that. But he is. I know him from Funny Games, the remake, the reboot. He's one of the guys. He's the guy that's not Michael Pitt, doing the terrorizing. So that's kind of funny that he's now doing this big movie, 3.5 hour movie, the longest movie I've ever seen in theaters. Even had an intermission. I've never had that before. But the screenplay is one of its stronger points. I think it has pretty good dialogue. I think it has, good acting. That's definitely where I would put these at. I have a video coming out where I rail against this movie with a few people. I did this on the TikTok live and with a few friends, and I'm going to edit it into a few pieces so you can hear more of my thoughts about it. But yeah, this movie is very uneven, especially on a writing standpoint. I think the second half, it's broke up into halves, and the second half is just very oddly paced, and they throw in some weird things. They have this odd mystery I don't think is useful or needed and is annoying. How did you feel about the mystery part without spoiling things?
Well, I'm not even sure what you mean by the mystery. The mystery
toward the end
of what are they building?
I don't even want to say Guy Pearce's character. I guess I'll mention that. The mystery of him toward the end, something happens to him, and we're like, why? What is it? Why is this there?
No, I loved all of it, and I have known. Not a totally evil person like this, but Guy Pearce is one of my favorite elements of the movie. I love just an evil guy who wears the face of your friendly neighborhood businessman. He's not particularly even good at business. It seems like he just lucked into everything, and nor does he even appreciate architecture to any extent other than him having this library that he didn't even ask to be built got him into a magazine. And so he's like, I want more of this attention. But there is a specific pathology someone has where they really, really want to help you, and then their helping you makes them really resent you. They really and they really resent how well they've helped you and how you can never show them enough gratitude to make them feel whole. And I thought he really captured that. Architecture there's long been a thing in movies where architecture can be a metaphor for filmmaking itself, because it's a thing that you have to get the big money man on board. You have to sell them on why it's necessary to do something that might be a little pretentious. And so you have to move in all these different worlds. Like Anora, I found this movie really, really funny in a very different way. The movie that it's
funny.
So it's like other people have made this comparison. This is like a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. This is like There Will Be Blood or The Master, which are also both really funny movies. And they're about like living for a long time with this very odd character. I just really appreciate a big story that takes a giant in scope with amazing production design, shot on film. I just loved everything about this movie. It's hard to talk about without giving certain things away, but this is one of my favorite movies of the year. Now, the screenplay itself would probably be, I think, is great, but it's not the thing that I think makes the movie special. I think it's the performances and the direction.
I think it was building up nicely. Like, the first half, I was with it, even with all. I don't like any of the directing part of it or the cinematography. I think all that's bad, honestly. But the actual story of it, the structure, how he's coming to be, and he's building this thing, and he's having struggles and things like that. All that was going in. The second half came in, and it did that for a little bit, but then threw in some extra subplots and this mystery thing, like I said, and the epilogue. I just don't think any of that stuff works. It wasn't satisfying at all for me, and it had a weird tone to the end of it also. Do you have any issues with the tone there at the end?
No, I thought it all worked really well.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know. The movie, I was just totally on the movie's wavelength.
Okay.
But no, I mean, you and I are different. This kind of I don't mind like just really sinking into a movie that's lighter on plot. Like, this movie has plot, but it is more it's more of an experience than anything else. I was going in, I was told this movie is so dark. And so it's dealing with dark things, but I thought it was a really fun movie. And again, really funny. I was the only person in the theater laughing, but like, at the times Adrian Brody is like literally kicking people in the butt. That's hilarious.
Yeah, some of his the performances for me made this movie. Him and Felicity Jones, and then Guy Pearce. Those are my three favorites. Some of my favorite parts of the movie, obviously, and they're three major characters. So that's really what sold it for me. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. But I hated several aspects of it, for sure.
The next movie is A Real Pain. This is Jesse Eisenberg's movie that he wrote, directed, and co-stars in. This is his second movie that he's directed. He directed a movie called When You Finish Saving the World in 2022. My first question for you, Joshua, is if you purchased this movie on Blu-ray and you alphabetized your Blu-rays, would you put this movie in the A's or the R's?
Good question. I put in the R's. Yeah, I discount the thes and the A's. But I would consider the N, which is AN, which is bizarre for me, but that's just the way I guess I would classify it. Yeah.
Wow, I've never heard that answer, because there's two schools of thought, and I'm like, yeah, of course you put it in the R's. A is like the, but then I started hearing people say, no, A is different from the. A is a deliberate choice. This is not real pain. This is real pain. This is a singular real pain.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But I've never heard somebody make the A versus an distinction. Like an American in Paris goes with
I don't know, for some reason the extra letter just gives it more oomph to
me.
It
gives a little heft. What did you think of this movie?
I like this one quite a bit. I think this is it's one of my favorites of this. I liked it more than the last two. I think the dialogue is quite good. I think that it's all about personalities. Besides having a nice, the cinematic part of it, having a nice, tour of Europe, that area was nice. But it's all about the dynamics between the cousins. Kieran Culkin obviously is also nominated. He's probably going to win. He's the shoe-in for that category. I think it's pretty funny. It's pretty heartfelt, and it just keeps you on your toes, especially with Kieran Culkin's character. You're not sure what's happening, but then also can't remember who's the other actor. What's his name?
Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenberg. Yeah, that's right. Jesse Eisenberg. I thought he was also really good. Had some great dialogue. Also has some good breakdown scene, and it's just it's a vibe of the movie. It's not real deep. It's got the brotherly or the cousin brotherly love kind of aspect to it with a lot of dialogue, but it just is something that's especially with Kieran, it's just such a interesting, unique, enigmatic character. It's like you don't know what he's going to say next, and you don't know how he's going to come across next, or what he's going to how he's going to think about something. So it's just really interesting and keeps you engaged.
Mm-hmm. So this movie it's only nominated for screenplay and then Culkin for best supporting actor. So let's talk a little bit more about this movie, because I won't get that many more chances to talk about it. So the story is Jesse Eisenberg plays a very type A nervous guy who's going on a trip with his cousin, who's also, seems to be like a former best friend. They were very, very close when they were younger. Now they have drifted apart. Kieran Culkin. Right. And at first I'm thinking like Kieran Culkin is just playing the Kieran Culkin character. He's playing his character from Succession. As the movie goes, you see how different that is. And you realize the things you think that he has in common with Roman from Succession are just because it's Kieran Culkin and he sounds and looks a specific way. This kind of, I love this movie. And I don't know that I can ever see it again. I compare it to a movie called Rachel Getting Married that Jonathan Demme made in 2008, where it is one of the most uncomfortable I've ever been watching a movie. It speaks to my specific brand of social anxiety, where if somebody is making a scene in a small group, I have to hide behind a sofa. I had a pillow over my head while many of the scenes were playing. And I started this movie many times and then had to stop because I couldn't handle it. Finally, I go get Lacey and I say, you need to watch this with me, so I will have to watch it. Now, one of the things that powers this movie is I've traveled with two specific people and been a Jesse Eisenberg to a Kieran Culkin. Well, first with Lacey, when I travel, she is the Jesse Eisenberg and I'm the Kieran Culkin. She's like, we have to get to the airport 3 hours early. And I'm like, it's fine. Everything's going to be fine. But whenever we are around strangers when we travel, she instantly becomes best friends with them. And I stand resentfully in the background and I'm like, no one talks to me. And then, now she does not eventually turn everybody off. The other way, Kieran Culkin I've said could play my friend Patrick. Patrick's been on Load Bearing Beams in the past,
Yeah.
and he and I will be actually launching a monthly Twilight Zone podcast soon. But he'll never listen to this. So yeah, he has this kind of attitude going through life. Everything's going to be fine. And if he'll do something like say, "Hey, I'm going to take a shower. Can I borrow your phone?" And I'll say, "Well, you have your own phone, right?" And he'll be like, "Yeah, but it doesn't play music." And it act like that's the dumbest question you ever could have asked. We'll never explain why he needs your phone. Anyway, so I was relating so hardcore to this. But I mean, you said it isn't very deep. I mean, I think this is a look at a certain kind of mental illness and pain in somebody that I've never seen so accurately put on screen. I know people like this. I know people who suffer like this, and like the journey he goes on in this movie is like he's not healed or anything. He might be in a different place emotionally from the beginning to the end of the movie, but not that much. And I thought the last shot of the movie where we leave him is just devastating. I can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of just unanswered questions about what Kieran is really about. That's kind of where I'm going with the deep part. I mean, there's deep things in his past. There's dark things, and he's got some mental health issues maybe, but it's not really clarify what those are. Is he depressed?
But do you need to know that? Like, can't you see it in the performance? Like, if they said this is my literal diagnosis, would that help?
It would help me understand his character more, and what he's going through. Because I mean, he seems like he's depressed, but his personality doesn't seem like that.
Oh, I think it's classic
mood swings, but
it's classic manic depressive, which is that person can be super invigorating to be around and then turn so quickly. And Jesse Eisenberg, playing the guy who knows him, has been around him and knows, like, people are so charmed by him right now, but I know there's going to be a turn really quickly. But it seems like he's winning over all these people, and Eisenberg's in the background resenting how much they like him and how he's making himself the center of attention. And then even stuff like he's feeling the Holocaust because they're touring, historical Holocaust sites. He's feeling it more emotionally powerfully than anybody else in the group, and then seems to be making it about how much better he's feeling it than anybody else. And I also, I don't, and you feel bad resenting that. This also, though, this seems like he will probably win this award, but it seems like a classic case of he's a lead actor in the movie, but they ran him as supporting because they know he could win as supporting.
Yeah, that's one of the problems I have with the Oscars in general. I don't like the politics about it. I don't like having the leads be a supporting actor sometimes, or they don't have two leads in the same category. I don't like that. Especially
if it's a comedy, and this is, it's a dramedy, but it's a very funny movie and it's a very funny role. I feel like if you ran him as lead, they'd be like, that's a silly performance. That's not serious. You can win a supporting actor Oscar in a comedy role, but not a lead acting Oscar.
You gotta play the Oscar has so many weird unnamed rules, and it's not fair. But you have to play the game to win,
absolutely,
or to get nominated. Unfortunately, and so like when we're talking about later on, when we talk about the what I would nominate for actual original screenplay for Oscar type movies, even though some of those are pushing like genres, but then I have my my own categories I put for my own Rated Awesome Awards, which are coming out soon. I have none of these movies are in there, and they're all different genres. I hate how Oscars really only highlights dramas. It's really not fair.
Oh yeah, the Oscars have been around 100 years. It's always been. They've always snubbed comedies, horror, sci-fi genre movies. It's basically like, are you a historical movie? Are you about a time in history, especially a sad time? Well, come on over.
Exactly. I don't understand that. Maybe it'll change in the future, but I'm glad we also have other award ceremonies that nominate different movies and genres and stuff. So that's good. We have you can look through some lists and kind of see where else, maybe some of the tops if you don't have time to actually watch these movies.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about September 5th. I think the least well-known movie in this category. This movie was directed by Tim Fehlbaum, a German director. He previously directed a movie called The Colony, a German sci-fi movie. This was written by Moritz Bender, Fehlbaum, and Alex David. This movie is about September 5th. It's about the 1972 Munich Olympics when Israeli Olympic athletes were taken hostage at the Olympics by Palestinian Well, in the movie, there's a debate. Do we call them terrorists? Do we call them guerrillas? Do we call them commandos? They're taken hostage by this group, Black September. But it's not about that. It's about the heroic news people who have to make the tough decisions about how to portray this on the as one character slams his fist on the table and says, "This is ABC, God damn it." So this movie, look, I like news movies generally. This movie certainly goes through all of the cliches of the genre, and don't know that it necessarily I don't know. You talk first. What do you think of this movie?
It didn't convince you. I actually really liked it. I have problems with my biggest problem with this movie are the ending parts. This is a historical situation that I didn't know a lot about, so I love learning about that. I thought it was fairly riveting. I thought that they did a really good job of putting you in the situation, and you're not sure what's going to happen, and you're with the news people who actually are sports people, sports reporters and broadcast team, and they became a news team because they kind of had to, and because of such a momentary piece of history that was happening and right before their eyes. And especially if you don't know the background of it and what's going to happen, it's really suspenseful. I thought they did a really good job, and there's a lot of good performances too, and the screenplay is quite good, I think, for this one.
Yeah, I mean, so I knew this story very well, and my whole life I've been hearing sports media people like jacking themselves off about how great a job the ABC sports crew did here. Though they center it on Jim McKay, the anchor, who in the movie is not played by an actor. They just have the archival footage, which is great, and he is great. But what they are trying to the thing I said I'm not convinced of is why is it so remarkable what they did? And the movie doesn't even answer that question because. So the two famous things about this story, one, that it's a sports crew that somehow converted to a news. How did they do that? Well, they did. But famously, they falsely reported that the hostages were saved when in reality, they were all killed. And in the movie, they make this report because it's so important that we report the goddamn news right now that they rush to judgment and report something that isn't true. And I'm left thinking, why does any of this matter? Why is it important that we see all of this in real time? Why is that more important than reading about it in the newspaper the next day? I also, Joshua, you and I talked about Alex Garland's Civil War last year on a TikTok live, and you were correctly on my side about that movie, about a movie having like the only wrong take, which is I'm apolitical about a very political situation, because this movie has no thoughts on the hostage crisis, on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or anything like that.
Okay.
Its only take is news is really important, and I at the end of this movie think news doesn't seem that important.
Okay, these are interesting takes. I love hot takes. I'm full of them myself. So anytime anyone has some, I'm always just getting my popcorn ready for it. So that's it. Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, they didn't really go into the whole Israeli-Palestinian debate. Also because we're living in it, and I also try to stay away from it myself. I don't like those kind of politics. I don't want to hear about them.
Well, it would it would be a different kind of movie to do that, and a much longer movie. But by deciding not to go into any of that, it's making you just have to assume this is all real important. I'm not sure why, and the most important thing is that we watch it live in real time.
I mean, it's take out the political, like cultural, significance out of it. It's still hostages, and still like Olympics are still going on. Are they going to postpone it? Are they going to suspend it? There's still all that tension there. So it's just about living in the now, and it's very important for. I don't care about news that much either. So, but it is important for newscasters to try to get hopefully the correct information as soon as possible. Be have the first scoop, have the exclusive. They want that. So they do go over why it was announced that the wrong result was announced about the hostages. They kind of go over there's some muddy issues. Also, this is 1972, so there's a lot of technical problems, and the limitations they have with that. So I think I went over that pretty well. And what you're saying before about how they had to come up with this on the spot. They weren't equipped for this. They didn't know what was happening. They kind of got like, oh, there's gunshots. We got to investigate a little bit more. Now let's get everybody in here. Let's really convert to a news team. Let's try to get the cameras on there. And this is basically like unproven people doing this for news. So I thought that was all really fascinating. The problem I had really was what the ending. They didn't really resolve it very well. It's all kind of, because they want to show more of the POV of the news team. We don't get much about what happened with after some terrorists leave, with hostages. We don't get a whole lot about that, and the way it wrapped up with kind of just like, that just fade to black, and then we have the fonts kind of telling you what happened. That's not satisfying to me. So I actually had to kind of watch a video or two about trying to find out what actually happened, and what happened is pretty, interesting and dramatic, and I want to see that movie. And I'm not sure why we didn't get part of that, at least in this movie.
Steven Spielberg's great movie Munich is about that. Have you seen that movie?
I have seen it, but I didn't know about the background. I don't remember much about it. I remember liking it, but not loving it. But I do want to watch that soon because it's like a sequel to this, really, and it's obviously a different feel to it.
Yeah, it's about the Mossad, Israeli Mossad, basically quest for revenge. But that movie is also it has a very ambivalent take on whether any of this means anything. Like, what is the point of revenge? Aren't we just in this endless feedback loop of action and response, and each thing that we do just causes the other side to double down?
Is there something refreshing about that? I mean, so many people complain about Hollywood and movies being too political, being too heavy-handed, too much message-oriented. Isn't it nice to have something that's just kind of like down the line? Like news people should be, what's the word?
Objective,
not unbiased. They should be unbiased with what they're reporting, right? So this is what they're kind of showing in this movie.
Yeah, well, I like that about Spielberg's movie. When that movie came out, both pro-Israeli people said it wasn't sufficiently pro-Israeli. Palestinian people said it wasn't sufficiently pro-Palestinian. And his take was basically, my read on it is like, this is all wrong. We're all doing the wrong things. And that's kind of going to make everybody mad. But it's very much not a Hollywood take on it from like the most Hollywood director of all time, Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to rewatching it. I only saw it once when it came out. And like I said, I didn't know the background of it very well. I remember it kind of just washing over me. I don't remember anything like specific, spectacular scenes from it or anything. So I'm looking forward to watching it again now that I know more about the context.
Oh yeah, I saw it in high school. Had no idea what any of it was. Didn't know anything they were talking about. But at the end, I was like, it was good, I guess. I don't know. But I've seen it many times in my 30s, and it's one of his best movies.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
I think that Peter Sarsgaard plays he plays Rune Arledge, this actual like legendary news psycho and sports psycho. I feel like I've seen Peter Sarsgaard play this role so many times. He played it in Shattered Glass. He played it in the television. What was that? Dope Sick on Hulu, where he plays a doctor who's like, I'm not sure about these pharmaceuticals. So he just does the thing he always does. The actors are all good. This movie's fun. It really, really annoyed me.
Okay, I'm surprised.
But I
think it was quite good. Yeah,
I will tell you. I love all the analog technology. I love the way that they hook a phone. They take a phone apart and like cauterize a cord and plug it into another thing. Love seeing all that.
Love that too. Yeah, I could have had a little more details with it. I think it could have been longer, maybe, or have maybe some deleted scenes. We'll see. They really didn't go into a lot of the other aspects in it. They wanted to stay with the news team, which I understand, but they also didn't give you enough context, especially if you don't know about some of the things. Like there was a lot of incompetence with the German police taking over and not allowing Israeli police, I think, to help them or something like that. So there was a lot of things like not discussed and not really.
Yeah, it kind of like they have the German employee who works with the ABC team, like you got to understand, Germany's on the world stage now. We're trying to present a new image and trying to show that we're competent, but they have local police who are handling this when obviously this should be like the German army, but Germany's post-war constitution has this weird division where the army can't go in. There's all this, like it has to explain all this in a non-lectury way, and I guess the movie just doesn't do a good job. If you don't like inherently understand all those things, the movie's not going to tell you. So that's another thing that sort of
sure, I can see that
makes it not a great screenplay, I think. But the last movie we have to talk about now is The Substance. This was written and directed by Coralie Fargeat. I've looked up Fargeat. The previous movie she directed was the 2017 French film Revenge. She is a French director. The Substance. Everybody knows, we all know The Substance. We're all taking The Substance every day. We have a goblin and we're hiding in our closet who's getting more grotesque every day. It's why we're all looking great. What do you think of The Substance, Joshua?
Yeah, The Substance is one of the most bizarre and spectacular experience movie for sure. Yeah, I really liked it a lot. It's not in my awesome top 20, I don't think, but mostly because the ending kind of just goes on too long. I'm a stickler for pacing. Don't bore me. Don't keep things monotonous. Don't make things tedious. So a lot of problems I have with movies are because of those reasons. But besides that, the actual story is really good. The acting's great. It's got a lot of satire. It's got a lot of style. It really makes you think. I have some nitpicks here with the screenplay, but I still thought it was really good.
Well, I mean, as a screenplay, it has to lay out this idea, this technology where you can steal the essence of a. You create a new body that's perfect. You just have to give it a little bit of your own essence, and you have to trade back and forth every 7 days. The screenplay does a great job of making you understand how this would work, because it's a really hard thing to explain to somebody. But once you're seeing it, you're like, oh yes, of course. And suddenly you start to feel things like Lacey was saying this, when we were watching it, like, you drink a lot one night and you're like, well, it's tomorrow's me who has to handle being hungover, whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
I thought as a commentary on, both, body positivity and body dysmorphia, it has a lot to say. And I loved I really think there's a very pointed critique of nepotism, because this is like a way you can, if you're aging out of a role in Hollywood, you can just create basically your own. In the movie, you could create like a younger doppelganger, but in reality, we have actors who just have children who then go in and take over the roles. Children like Margaret Qualley, who plays the young girl in the movie.
That's true.
She herself is the daughter of Andy McDowell, and it's like, we will never allow new people into this world. You have to be related to somebody to even get into the world.
I can see that. Yeah, there's a lot of layers in this movie. A lot of things you can dive into. A lot of things to study. And it's a great ride. And it's got awesome effects, special effects and prosthetics and things like that. I had my issues was I always want more information. And that's one of my things. So I was a little annoyed that. I mean, do you think I was a little annoyed that they didn't pay for The Substance? I think that would have shown more about the desperation they had, or she had, to take it. It's just given to her, and obviously it's a step, you kind of cross to take it or not, keep taking it. But to go back and forth and getting it, why wouldn't she have to pay and lose out financially and sacrifice some of her well-being to do this?
I assume she is paying. I mean, I assume she just gets billed and pays the bill.
No, that's not discussed. I don't think that's ever the case.
That's you don't have to see every. Do you also have to see her going to the bathroom and taking showers and paying her bills and paying her taxes?
That's silly. I don't think it's ever hinted that it costs anything. I mean, maybe people like that ambiguous of it. I don't like that. I like to know.
I guess I could see it if the movie makes it look like. This is literally being given to her, like she's like this new experimental person. Then I can see where you're coming from. Like, that is something we need to know. Is this something everybody's taking? And I assumed we were going to get the moment in the movie where we realize everybody in the world is taking The Substance. Like how, there's always these articles that are like, here's the plastic surgery that famous person X has gotten, and how we're always like, how does Paul Rudd always look like he's 30 years old? Well, it's because he spends $3 million a year to do it. But we don't get that. But I love this movie. I think it's so much fun. I love the body horror. I think it's the rare body horror movie that uses CGI to good effect to actually be creepy and scary.
Okay.
And it's just one of my favorite movies. I think the screenplay is great because, like I said, it has to communicate this really complicated scenario that I myself struggle to explain to people, but it does it, and it doesn't make you feel like you're going crazy thinking about it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those movies you got to watch more than once. I've only seen it once so far, so I'm looking forward to watching it again. Maybe trying to see maybe it solves some of the problems I have with it. I also had some issues with it's kind of murky about what the other person remembers when they're in the closet. And this they don't have any kind of memories about that. They don't, or are they kind of the same consciousness? Because it's
Yeah,
confusing about
I
that at the
think
end. Yeah.
yeah, Lacey and I disagreed about this. I think that they remember everything, but once you become the other person, you feel differently about everything that you remember. It's
Okay.
like, but like how if you binge eat or you binge drink, you're like, the next morning, like, I'm never doing that again, ever again.
Hmm.
But then later on, you don't feel the same way anymore. Also, like, if they don't remember anything, there wouldn't be a motivation to keep doing it.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. It's one to
Or at
watch again
least
for
Demi
sure.
Moore wouldn't have the motivation to keep turning into Margaret Qualley if she
Hmm.
isn't also Margaret Qualley when she's in there. If you're just creating a totally different person who doesn't even have your consciousness, there isn't a reason to do it.
I like that.
All right, we've gone long. I hope I haven't bored you because you like fast paced. But
Yeah,
I knew we would go
it's okay.
long.
No, go as long as you want. It's fine. You can use this for other videos
Let's
or
talk
whatever.
about what we think of these 5 nominees first.
Okay.
We think should win, we think deserves to win, and then second will win. So
Okay.
what do you think of these 5 nominees?
What I think should win out of these, again, not my favorites for this year, but for actual the nominees, I would say probably The Substance is the most like exciting, but I would probably go for A Real Pain for the actual screenplay. What I think will win is The Brutalist. I think that's going to sweep a lot of the major categories. It's got this epic scope for it that a lot of people seem to love. Um, Even with all its problems, I think that people will just, it's got that type of Oscar flavor, and that's why it's nominated the second most, I think, of everything.
Yeah, I think so.
After 10 nominations, I believe.
I think I agree with both of those. I would pick A Real Pain, would be my personal pick.
Hmm.
I'm going between The Brutalist and September 5th. September 5th just seems like the kind of movie that the Oscars likes to award for screenplay.
Really? Wow.
But who cares if I get this right or wrong? What about Snubs? What you wouldn't have nominated any of these. So what screenplays do you think deserve to be nominated?
Correct. Okay, so for Oscar type of movies, I'm really surprised that Challengers did not get any nominations,
Yeah,
especially for
me too.
screenplay. I think Challengers is a pretty fantastic movie, and the tensions there, and the twists and turns, and the power dynamics. It's great. Love Lies Bleeding is really good. Also, a good thriller.
Love that movie.
Um, Gary keeps. I love like movies that are are unpredictable and keep are surprising and engaging, and it's great for the LGBT community as well. I think The Apprentice is really good. It shows a great arc for real life people, and is thrilling, and especially if and the problem is it's kind of like doesn't go over new territory, especially people who know about Donny Boy over here, and his rise to his rise and continue rise. But it's more about the Roy Cohn,
Mm-hmm.
his as him as a protege, and learning these things from a killer lawyer who kind of taught him, or molded him to be even more meaner and cutthroat, and learn and live by the 3 lessons that he lives by, basically to tackle at all times, never take responsibility, that kind of thing. And then I would say, so I have 2 more, right? So Heretic, I'm also surprised. I think Heretic's a great screenplay, especially that first half. I think, especially for like religious horror, I don't like a lot of religious horror, and I think this did really well. I would like more of the thriller aspect to it, but I did really like a lot of these monologues, and just different theories, and just like Hugh Grant's character just really kind of lays out and is kind of twisting the knife, and with the 2 ladies, and just trying to like just keep the tension the whole time.
He's great at being both very scary and very annoying. Like, shut up. I get it.
So you thought it was too heavy-handed?
No,
Yeah.
no, no. I think it's a choice. I think that the movie knows what it's doing. It knows like he's very scary and he's Hugh Grant, so he's a great actor who's always kind of played unsettling and unlikable people, but also he's kind of just like the annoying guy in your high school class who's read a philosophy book and is like really eager to let you know how smart he is.
He wants he loves to hear himself talk. He does. And I think that movie is really good. I want to rewatch it. I had some issues with the second half. I wish it was more of a labyrinthian kind of maze, and that kind of mattered more in the scheme of things. But I still think especially that first half is really, really riveting. I was surprised September 5th actually is nominated for original, because I mean, why wouldn't that be adapted from like news stories and documentaries it has in the past? Do you know what the rules are about that?
Yeah, if it's a historical thing, it would only be an adaptation if you're literally adapting a source. If somebody wrote a book, a history book on it, or if you're literally adapting a series of articles. But if it's just a series of events that happens, then that's original because it's basically the public domain, real things that happened.
That makes sense.
Versus something like A Complete Unknown, which is literally based on a Bob Dylan biography.
Okay. And then the last one, so the fifth one I would say put in there, is a movie that a lot of people haven't heard of. It's called Last Stop in Yuba County. It's one of my favorite thrillers of the year, and it's just it really is unpredictable, and it's got a real domino effect going on in the movie, and it's just so suspenseful and tension filled, and the dialogue's quite good also. It's more about like what happens as like the pieces are laid out and how that connects to the puzzle. I think everybody should see it. So those are my choices for the actual Oscar type movies I would nominate.
Do you have do you mean that you have like non-Oscar type movies that you think?
Oh yeah, in my actual category of the Rate Awesome Awards, I have my own that none of those are in there. But I want to. Have you seen Last Stop by Yuma County?
No.
Have you ever heard of that?
No, I need to see it.
It's great. Did you see The Apprentice? Did you see that one?
Still need to see it.
Yeah. And especially the performances, I'm glad that the two leads were actually nominated for that, because they were fantastic. I think that's Sebastian Stan's best he's ever been.
I had never liked a Sebastian Stan performance until I saw him on the Tommy Lee and Pam Anderson show.
Oh, I gotta watch that still. Yeah, he looks great in that one. I haven't watched it, but I think he's a really good actor, and he's definitely up and comer still. He's still proving himself, but he's done well last couple of years for sure. So if you want to know my actual like screenplay from Awesome Screenplay, my category would be Abigail. Is really fantastic. It's a genre movie. It's a thriller. It unfortunately was one of the worst, spoiled because of the trailer, but the way it's actually structured, not supposed to know too much about the supernatural aspect, and it actually will unveil when they're really exciting. So I can't discredit the screenplay for that. I would say My Old Ass is also really good. Have you seen that one?
No.
That's a great one. It's the best romantic comedy of the year, and it doesn't really market itself as that either. This is the one with Aubrey Plaza and Macy Stella. And Aubrey Plaza is her future self, but she can talk to her in the present because of drugs, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really heartfelt and deeper than you think it would be, and also really funny and just a good time.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm very anxious to see that movie. I'm just stupidly prioritizing movies that got nominated.
It's all right. It's one of those that everyone's like really always like, oh, taking it back, like, oh, that was surprisingly good. That was way better than I thought it would be, and it was. And then Hitman is also really great. I think one of the best Netflix streamers.
Love Hitman.
I
guess it wasn't released theatrically, so it wouldn't. Oh, but this is your own. This is your own awards.
Yeah, but also I think that doesn't matter anymore for Oscars.
You have to do a 30-day release.
30-day? I thought it was only a couple days you had to be in theaters, maybe. No. Or I thought they were changing that also, but maybe they haven't changed it yet. Yeah, so that's another like stupid rule they have. I don't abide by any rules.
You maniac. I loved Hitman. It was a movie because I live in New Orleans. It's a movie set in New Orleans that like shows not all the cliche things about New Orleans. It shows like normal houses and normal like the streetcar and stuff. But also, absolutely. Yeah, just a fucking fun as hell movie.
just a fun, thriller, romantic comedy, a lot of different mixes of genres, and just again very unpredictable. It goes a little dark, I think, in the end there, but I still think it's a really good movie. Fall Guy, I think, is a great movie. I've got multiple genres, and I love filmmaking movies, and this one's a love letter to filmmaking and stunts. And the chemistry between Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt was so there. And it's just a thrilling movie all the way around. It also has really good dialogue. It's really funny. I love Ryan Gosling's character. So I made it on the list. And then my last one, who actually would win, spoiler alert for my awards, would be It's What's Inside, which actually is my favorite Netflix movie of all time. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't even heard of it.
It's What's Inside came out only a couple months ago. I want to say September or something. It's a thriller. It's a body swap thriller, and it's also a comedy, and it's a dark comedy, and it's just a bunch of people, like friends, and they become enemies, and there's a lot of deceit, and it's really funny. It's just really smart, really unpredictable. Again, I love it. I hope they have a sequel at some point, but it's a must see for everybody, and I will talk more about that later on my Great Awesome Awards, so stay tuned for that.
Okay, hell yeah. The final thing, Joshua, is just give me your pick for Best Picture. First, who you think's going to win, and then just give me your number one favorite movie of 2024.
Okay, so I think that The Brutalist will win, because as I said, they're nominated for 10 awards. I think they're going to win several of them, and I think that it's got the power and the acclaim that it needs to win this kind of award. What I think should win is Wicked. I think Wicked is quite, or Dune 2 also. Those are two huge epics. I guess I would pick Dune Part 2 over Wicked, actually, for that one. So they're both just monstrous movies. They both are just super satisfying. They're both really long, but they're packing so much stuff with it. And there's great performances, and just they did really great adaptations for the source material.
It's funny, when Dune 2 came out, almost a year ago, people were saying, like, cancel the Oscars now. This is going to win everything. But it's like, nope, it came out way too early. Classic. Sometimes you can ride the wave all the way through the year, but I think if it came out in December, it might be the favorite to win everything, but it might get shut out, honestly. I mean, it'll probably win one or two technical awards.
Yeah, I think it'll win hopefully a couple of them, but it's bizarre that they're not nominated for more things. It's true, because everybody was over. I think it is overhyped, but I still think it's quite a great movie.
Director, best director, at least. Like nobody's making blockbusters at this scale like Villeneuve is. So
exactly, that's the one I would definitely. It's the biggest snub.
That is the biggest snub. Yes, absolutely.
Denis Villeneuve, yeah, absolutely.
So just give me number one, your favorite movie of 2024.
Oh, it's actually, I can spoil it. It's What's Inside. That's the one. It came out of nowhere. I was not anticipating to be that good, and it just blew me away. You got to watch it. It's so funny. It's so smart, and it's so just unique. And the way that it's shot is great too. The editing, the cinematography, everything. It's got it all.
Huh.
Performances also, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Like I've never heard of the director. Okay, well, I'm definitely gonna watch this movie.
He's a first-time director, Greg Jardine. So he's also in my nominations for. I have like categories like awesome premiere or awesome directorial debut. That's one of the things, and he's definitely nominated for that.
Okay. Well, everybody, please check out Cinematic Joshua's content. Links in the description to where you can find him on TikTok, on YouTube, etc. And Joshua, thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.